My name is Nina Bennett, and I am 36 years old. 3 Saturdays ago, my mother booked the private dining room at my restaurant under a fake company name. She paid the deposit, chose the menu, and told my staff it was a retirement lunch. Then the doors opened, and the first guest through them was the father I had spent nearly 12 years keeping out of my life. My mother stood beside him in a cream suit, holding one of our white place cards. His name was written across it in her careful blue handwriting. She pressed the card into my palm and said, "You are going to serve your father. Then you are going to smile for the newspaper." A reporter waited behind them with a camera. My mother had promised her a story about a family healing over lunch. She had also told the reporter that the restaurant was my gift to the man who taught me everything I knew about food. None of that was true. The restaurant was the one place I had built where nobody shouted, nobody blocked a door, and nobody made fear part of the price of dinner. My mother knew that. She booked the room anyway. What she did not know was that I had already seen the email she sent the reporter. I knew the fake company name. I knew the speech she planned to make. I also knew exactly what I would do if my father crossed the brass line in our front doorway. Before I tell you how that lunch ended, tell me what you would have done with a full dining room waiting behind the person you escaped. And if stories about hard boundaries matter to you, subscribe and stay with me. To understand why a place card could make my hand shake, you need to know where I learned to cook. I grew up outside Bristol, Tennessee, in a low brick house behind a roadside diner called Cal's Grill. The diner sat beside a tire shop and across from a field that flooded every spring. Its sign showed a red coffee cup with steam curling into the shape of a C. My father, Calvin Hayes, opened the place before I was born. To customers, he was Cal. He remembered how people took their eggs, kept peppermints by the register, and slipped free pie to anyone who had lost a job. Men from the paper mill called him the mayor of breakfast. At home, he was different. Calvin believed every room had one temperature, and he said it. If he was pleased, we laughed. If he was tired, we whispered. If he was angry, my mother lowered her voice and told the rest of us not to make things worse. Her name is Lorraine. She ran the register, ordered paper goods, and managed my father's moods with the same bright smile she used on customers. She could hear a cabinet close too hard from 3 rooms away. She could also pretend she had not heard it. My younger brother, Eli, learned to disappear into the garage. I learned to stay close. I watched the coffee, cleared plates, and kept conversations moving when my father went silent. By the time I was 12, I knew how to turn a tense table. I knew which regular wanted a joke, which one wanted quiet, and which one would tip more if you called him honey. I also knew how to read my father from the way he set down a knife. He taught me useful things. That is part of what made leaving so hard. He taught me to salt onions before they browned. He taught me that biscuits failed when you handled them too much. He taught me to listen for the soft scrape of a spatula under an egg. Then he used every lesson as a debt. "You cook because I taught you," he would say. "You work because I gave you somewhere to stand. Don't confuse talent with gratitude." At 16, I worked every weekend and most school nights. My pay went into an envelope in the office safe. My father said he was saving it for me. I believed him. When I graduated, there was no envelope. Calvin said the family had used the money for my food, my clothes, and my share of the electric bill. Lorraine stood beside him and said, "A household is expensive, Nina. You know that." I did know it. I also knew my brother had been paid in cash. That was the first time I understood our family rule. Eli's help was generous. Mine was owed. I enrolled in community college and studied hospitality management. I took morning classes, worked lunch and dinner, then came home smelling like fryer oil. My father called school a hobby, but he liked telling customers his daughter was learning the business. He never asked what I learned. I learned that a restaurant could have written schedules. I learned that tips belonged to servers. I learned that a manager could correct someone without humiliating them in front of a dining room. Those ideas sounded ordinary to everyone else. To me, they sounded radical. My favorite instructor was a woman named Maribel Santos. She had managed hotels in 3 states and could spot a fake smile across a ballroom. One afternoon, she watched me apologize after another student bumped into me. "You do that a lot," she said. "Do what?" "Take responsibility for the weather in the room." I laughed because I thought she was joking. She was not. Maribel helped me apply for a paid training position at a hotel restaurant in Richmond, Virginia. It was not glamorous. I would rotate through banquets, purchasing, and the front desk. The pay was modest, but it came with health insurance and a room in an employee apartment for 3 months. When the offer arrived, I sat in my car behind the diner and read it 5 times. Richmond was 5 hours away. It might as well have been another country. I did not tell my parents that night. I did not tell them the next night either. For 2 weeks, I carried the letter inside a cookbook in my bedroom. Every morning, I promised myself I would speak after the dinner rush. Every night, I heard my father's truck pull in and lost my nerve. Eli found the letter first. He was 19 and home from technical school for the weekend. He walked into my room looking for a phone charger and came out holding the envelope. "You got a job in Virginia." I grabbed it from him. "Keep your voice down." His face changed, not cruel, afraid. "Dad is going to lose it." That sentence told me everything. Not congratulations. It was not a question about when I would leave. It was a warning about the man whose reactions still controlled both of us. I told my parents the following Sunday after the diner closed. The chairs were upside down on the tables. The floor smelled like bleach and old grease. Calvin read the offer without sitting. Lorraine stood by the pie case with her arms folded. He finished, placed the letter on the counter, and said, "No." I thought I had misheard him. "It starts next month," I said. "No, it does not." "I already accepted." His eyes moved to my mother. She looked at the floor. Calvin tore the letter once, slowly, then again. He dropped the pieces into the trash beneath the register. "You do not walk out after we spent 24 years building you," he said. I was 24. Hearing my age used like an invoice did something to me. I reached into the trash. He caught my wrist. He did not hit me. Calvin rarely needed to. He squeezed until my fingers opened, then leaned close enough that I could smell coffee on his breath. "You leave this family and you leave empty," he said. Lorraine whispered his name. He looked at her and she went quiet. That was the night I stopped believing my mother's silence was weakness. Silence can be fear. It can also be a choice repeated until it becomes a weapon. I went home and packed one suitcase, not because I felt brave, but because I knew courage might disappear if I slept. I put my clothes, my school records, and the pieces of the offer letter into the trunk of my car. Then I drove to a 24-hour pharmacy and used the copier near the greeting cards. I taped the letter together on the hood of my car. At dawn, I called Maribel. She did not ask why I was crying. She called the hotel, confirmed that the offer still stood, and told me to drive to her house first. When I returned for the rest of my things, Calvin's truck blocked the driveway. He stood on the porch with my suitcase at his feet. My mother was behind the screen door. Eli was nowhere in sight. "You embarrassed me," my father said. "I am going to work." "You have work." "I have a job where I get paid." His face hardened. For years, I had softened sentences before giving them to him. That morning, I did not. He kicked the suitcase off the porch. It split on the gravel. Shirts, socks, and a framed photo scattered near the hydrangeas. Then he walked toward me. I backed up until the car door pressed against my hip. He put one hand above my shoulder and trapped me between his body and the car. "You think strangers are going to love you better than your family?" he asked. "No," I said. "I think they're going to let me leave." That answer surprised both of us. I ducked under his arm, got into the car, and locked the door. He hit the roof with his palm as I reversed. My mother did not come outside. I drove to Richmond with one suitcase, a taped job offer, and $83 in my checking account. I had never signed a lease. I had never spent a holiday away from home. I had never chosen a route without hearing my father's opinion first. For the first hour, I expected his truck in the mirror. For the second, I expected my mother to call. Neither happened. At the hotel, Maribel helped me carry my bag into a furnished apartment shared with another trainee. The room had beige walls and a mattress that dipped in the middle. I thought it was beautiful. That first night, I placed a chair under the doorknob. The next morning, I began work in banquet setup. We rolled round tables across ballrooms, polished water glasses, and folded napkins into shapes I could never make twice. Nobody yelled. When a tray slipped from my hands, the banquet captain asked if I was hurt. I waited for the insult that usually came after a mistake. It never came. For the first few weeks, kindness made me nervous. Clear instructions made me suspicious. I stayed late without clocking the hours because I assumed good workers were supposed to give away time. Maribel caught me. "You are not helping anyone by teaching them your labor is free," she said. That sentence stayed with me. My father called the hotel during my third week. I had never given him the number. He told the front desk there was a family emergency. When I picked up, he said my mother was sick. "What happened?" "She cannot sleep because of what you did." I looked through the office window at a housekeeper pushing a cart down the hall. "That is not a medical emergency." "You sound different already." "I am at work." "You are playing employee in a hotel. Come home." I hung up. He called again, then he called the restaurant, then human resources. He told one manager I had stolen money from the diner. He told another I was unstable. He told Maribel I had a history of making false accusations when I got upset. Maribel documented every call. My mother left messages after him. "Nina, your father is scared." "Nina, please stop punishing us." "Nina, people are asking questions." Not once did she ask whether I felt safe. The hotel changed my extension. Security received a photo of Calvin. I felt ashamed every time I passed the front desk, as though his behavior had become a stain on my uniform. Then he came to Richmond. It was raining. I was working the host stand during lunch when the glass doors opened, and my father walked in wearing his brown work jacket. My body knew him before my mind did. My hands went cold, the room narrowed. He smiled at the hostess beside me. "I am here to see my daughter." I stepped backward. Calvin looked at my name tag and laughed. "There she is." The restaurant manager, a quiet man named George, came from the dining room. He already knew the history. "Sir, you need to leave," George said. "This is family." "This is my workplace," I said. My father's smile vanished. He pointed at me across the host stand. "You do not get to make me look like a criminal because you are having a phase." Guests had started watching. I wanted to disappear. That old instinct rose inside me, the one that begged me to calm the room at any cost. I almost went outside with him. Then George moved beside me, not in front of me. "You can tell him what you want," he said quietly. It was the first time anyone had offered support without taking over. "I do not want contact," I told my father. "Do not call my job, do not come here again." Calvin stared at me. Then he looked around at the customers. He understood audiences. His face changed into something injured and gentle. "I drove 5 hours to apologize," he said. He had not said the word sorry once. Security escorted him out. That evening, he left 7 voicemails. In one, he cried. In another, he called me ungrateful. In the last, he said he would wait outside my building until I remembered who I belonged to. I spent the night at Maribel's house. The next morning, she drove me to the courthouse. I filed for a protective order using the calls, the hotel records, and the statement from the restaurant manager. The judge granted a temporary order. A later hearing extended it for 1 year. My mother came to that hearing. She did not sit with me, she sat behind Calvin. When the judge asked whether my father had threatened me, Lorraine said he was emotional but harmless. She said our family spoke loudly. She said I had always been sensitive. The judge played the final voicemail. My mother stared at her purse. The order was granted anyway. Outside the courtroom, Lorraine caught my sleeve. "You have no idea what you just did to him." I pulled my arm free. "I know exactly what he did to me." She looked shocked, as if I had broken a rule by using the same grammar. That was the last time I saw either of my parents for more than 11 years. The order ended after 12 months. My fear did not. I moved apartments. I changed my last name from Hayes to Bennett, which had been my grandmother's maiden name. I removed my photo from the hotel website and asked friends not to tag my location. I also stopped answering Eli. He sent short messages every few months. "Dad is calmer. Mom misses you. Are you really going to do this forever?" I did not know how to explain that forever was not my plan. Safety was. For a long time, I treated every unknown number like a door rattling in its frame. I checked parking lots before getting out of my car. I chose tables where I could see the entrance. I was free, but my nervous system had not received the news. Work became the place where I learned a different set of rules. I moved from banquets to the restaurant floor, then into purchasing. I learned food costs, vendor contracts, and how one missing case of butter could ruin a weekend forecast. I also learned what kind of manager I never wanted to become. When a dishwasher broke 6 plates, I helped clean them up. When a cook froze during a rush, I moved beside her and called tickets more slowly. When someone needed to leave because a child was sick, I did not ask them to prove it. None of that made the kitchen soft. It made the kitchen steady. 5 years after I arrived in Richmond, the hotel sold to a national chain. The new owners replaced local managers and cut the restaurant staff by a third. Marable retired. George moved to North Carolina. I stayed through the transition, but the place changed. The dining room looked the same. The feeling did not. That was when I met Rosa Delgado. Rosa was a sous chef with a laugh that carried through a freezer door. She had worked in kitchens since she was 17 and had no patience for men who called cruelty standards. One night after service, we sat on milk crates behind the loading dock and talked about opening a restaurant. We did not want a famous place or one with smoke under glass and tweezers beside every plate. We wanted a neighborhood dining room with good food, fair schedules, and a kitchen where nobody had to guess whether the person in charge was angry. I said it out loud before I could stop myself. I want to build the opposite of my father's diner. Rosa looked at me for a moment. "Then that is the business plan," she said. Opening a restaurant took 3 years. Rosa and I saved money, worked double shifts, and met with a loan officer who used the phrase thin margins so often that I heard it in my sleep. We found a former stationery store in Richmond's north side with tall windows and a cracked tile floor. The landlord thought we were ridiculous. The kitchen had no hood. The plumbing groaned. One wall leaned just enough to worry everyone except the contractor. I loved it. We named the restaurant Linden Table after the row of linden trees outside. In summer, their leaves made green shadows across the front windows. In winter, their bare branches looked like careful handwriting against the sky. The central line in the front doorway was brass. It covered the seam between old tile and new oak flooring. The contractor asked whether we wanted something less noticeable. I said no. I wanted to see where one space ended and another began. Rosa handled the kitchen. I managed the dining room, finances, events, and staff. We shared every major decision and wrote everything down. Our employee handbook was short: no screaming, no insults disguised as urgency, no unpaid work, no touching someone to move them out of the way. During our first staff meeting, a young line cook named Theo raised his hand. What happens when we are slammed and somebody messes up? We fix the mistake, Rosa said. What happens to the person? We teach them, I said. If it keeps happening, we address it after service. He looked unconvinced. So nobody throws anything. The room laughed. I did not. No, I said, nobody throws anything. Linden Table opened on a rainy Tuesday in March. We served 41 guests and forgot to fire one table's entrees. The card reader went down. A server cried in the walk-in because she thought she had ruined the night. At closing, Rosa set a plate of leftover bread pudding on the pass. We ate it standing up. We survived, she said. I looked through the dining room at crooked chairs, empty glasses, and wet footprints near the door. We did better than survive. The first year was brutal. We had weeks when payroll left less than $200 in the account. The ice machine failed during graduation weekend. A delivery driver backed into the herb planter. Still, people returned. They came for Rosa's chicken with lemon and charred greens. They came for the warm cornbread we served in small iron pans. They came because the hosts remembered anniversaries and the servers did not rush older couples through dessert. A local critic called Linden Table, a room that feels calm without feeling quiet. I cut out that sentence and taped it inside the office cabinet. Calm without quiet. That was the thing I had wanted all my life. I kept my name off most early press. The articles referred to Rosa as executive chef and to me as the operating partner. Our business records were public if anyone looked hard enough, but my parents did not look. Eli did. He sent an email during our second year. I found your restaurant, it looks good, I am not telling them. I read the message twice. Then I wrote back one line. Thank you for respecting that. It was our first exchange in almost 10 years. For several months, that was all. Then he sent a photo of my mother standing beside a hospital bed. Calvin had suffered a mild heart attack. He was sitting up, looking annoyed at the camera. Eli wrote he is okay. Mom said you should know. I did not respond. The next day, Lorraine called from a number with a Richmond area code. I almost answered because I thought it might be a vendor. She left a voicemail. Nina, your father had a warning. The doctor says stress is dangerous for him. I am not asking you to come home. I am asking you to consider what unfinished anger does to a family. Her voice had not changed. She still made his choices sound like weather and my boundaries sound like the storm. I deleted the message. 2 weeks later, a sympathy card arrived at Linden Table. The envelope had no return address. Inside, my mother had written, your father is learning that time is not promised. I hope you learn it too. There was no apology, no question about my life, no acknowledgement that she had tracked down my workplace after being asked not to. Rosa found me holding the card in the office. Do we need to change anything? She asked. That was how she phrased support. Not what did they do, not are you okay, what do we need to change? We removed my direct extension from the website. Staff were told not to confirm whether I was on the property. The card went into a locked drawer with our legal documents. I did not build a binder. I did not need one. The card itself was enough to remind me that my mother still treated access like something she could earn by finding the right tone. Months passed. Calvin recovered and sold Cal's grill to a cousin. According to Eli, the sale made him restless. He had spent 4 decades being the loudest person in one room. Retirement left him without a room. Lorraine began organizing his legacy. That was her word. She created a scrapbook of newspaper clippings, diner menus, and photos of Calvin shaking hands with customers. She contacted the Bristol paper about a retirement feature. Eli told me this during our first phone call. We had been emailing for nearly a year by then. He had apologized for staying silent when Calvin blocked my car. The apology was awkward and specific, which made it matter. "I should have come outside," he said. "You were 19. I was still there. So was Mom." The line went quiet. Eli did not defend her. He had changed too. He worked as an electrician, had a wife and a toddler, and limited how often our parents saw his family. Calvin had never threatened him the way he threatened me, but control had found other forms. "You know Mom is trying to get you into the article," he said. My hand tightened around the phone. "How?" "She wants it to say you followed Dad into restaurants." "I did not." "I know." "Does the reporter know we have not spoken in years?" "I doubt it." I walked to the front window. Linden Table was closed between lunch and dinner. Sunlight fell across the brass line in the doorway. "What does Dad know?" "That she is working on a surprise." That word made my stomach turn. "Eli, do not give her my schedule." "I will not." "Do not give her my address." "I will not." "Do not tell her anything about the restaurant." "I already told her it is yours." I closed my eyes. He rushed on. "She found the website. She asked if you owned it and I said yes. I am sorry." That was his mistake, and for a few minutes I made it larger than it was. I accused him of opening a door he knew I had closed. He said he thought she already knew. I said that was not his decision to make. Then I hung up. I regretted the way I spoke, but not the boundary. An hour later, I called back. "I should not have unloaded all of that on you," I said, "but I need you to understand that information is access in this family." "I understand now." "Do you?" "Yes, Mom does not ask questions because she is curious. She asks because she is arranging something." That was exactly right. 3 days later, Lorraine emailed the restaurant's public account. The subject line said Family Lunch Inquiry. She did not use my name. She asked whether Linden Table hosted private meals on Saturdays. She wanted a room for 28 people and requested a menu featuring biscuits, fried chicken, green beans, and chocolate pie. The foods from Cal's Grill. Rosa forwarded the message to me with one question. "Is this her?" I stared at the screen until the letters blurred. Then I replied from my personal address. "Lorraine, this restaurant is not available for a family event. Do not contact my staff to reach me. Do not come to the property. I am not participating in your article or Calvin's retirement." Her answer came 12 minutes later. "I was only asking a business question. You did not need to be cruel." I did not reply. The next morning, she sent another email. "You have built something beautiful from what your father gave you. He deserves to see it once." That sentence followed me through the day. "What your father gave you?" He had given me knife skills, biscuit dough, and an instinct for danger. He had also given me a model for every workplace I refused to create. By closing time, I knew what I needed to say. I wrote, "He is not invited. Neither are you. Any reservation made to avoid this boundary will be canceled." I copied Rosa. Lorraine did not answer. For almost a year, nothing happened. That quiet was not peace, it was planning. By the time Linden Table entered its 4th year, we were finally stable. Not rich, stable. We had 30 employees, a waiting list on weekends, and enough cash in reserve that a broken freezer no longer felt like the end of the world. Rosa had become a minority owner. I had stopped checking the bank balance before buying myself groceries. I also started sleeping through the night. My parents remained outside the life I had built. Eli and I spoke every few weeks. He visited Richmond once with his wife and daughter, but we met at a park across town. He never posted photos. That spring, a regional food magazine included Linden Table in a feature about women-owned restaurants. The article used my full name and a photograph of Rosa and me beneath the linden trees. There was no way to hide after that. Lorraine mailed a clipping to the restaurant. Across the top, she had written, "Your father always said you had his hands." I tore the note in half. Then I stopped. For years, I had destroyed things because I wanted the feeling gone. This time, I placed the clipping in the same locked drawer as her sympathy card. Not as a case, as clarity. My father had never said I had his hands. He said my hands were slow. He said I held a knife like someone waiting for permission. Lorraine was not remembering. She was editing. A month later, our events coordinator, Tessa, brought me a reservation packet for approval. She handled ordinary bookings, but private Saturday luncheons came to me because we had to close the front dining room. The client was Common Ground Hospitality. The name meant nothing to me. They wanted a retirement luncheon for 32 guests on the second Saturday in October. They had paid the full deposit and selected a family-style menu from our standard event package. The contact person was listed as Laura Merritt. The email address looked professional. The phone number carried a Knoxville area code. The note said the guest of honor had spent his career in food service and would appreciate a tour of the kitchen after lunch. I circled that line. "No kitchen tour," I told Tessa. She nodded. I already told her. She said that was fine. "Any media?" She checked no. "Any speeches?" "One short toast before dessert." I looked at the menu: roast chicken, cornbread, green beans, chocolate chess pie. Common food, Southern food. It did not prove anything. Still, my skin prickled. Where did they find us? Magazine article. I looked at the contact name again. Laura Merritt. My mother's middle name was Laura. I searched the company. A real consulting firm in Charlotte had a similar name, but no Common Ground Hospitality existed at the address on the packet. The address belonged to a mailbox store. I called the phone number from the office line. A woman answered on the fourth ring. "Common Ground." Her voice was younger than my mother's. "May I speak with Laura Merritt?" "This is her." I asked routine questions. She answered smoothly. She said the company organized appreciation events for independent restaurants and that the guest of honor was a retired owner from Eastern Tennessee. What was the name of his restaurant? A pause. Cal's Cafe. My throat tightened. Do you mean Cal's Grill? Another pause. Yes, sorry, I have several files open. I kept my voice neutral. And the guest of honor's full name? Calvin Hayes. The office seemed to tilt. I looked through the glass at my dining room. Tessa was arranging menus at the host's stand. A server polished glasses by the bar. "Ms. Merritt, this event was booked under false information." "I do not understand." "I think you do." The woman inhaled. Then my mother took the phone. "Nina." I gripped the desk. "Who is Laura?" "A friend from church." "Why is she pretending to represent a company?" "Because you refused to discuss this like an adult." I almost laughed. "You were warned in writing not to make a reservation." "I made no reservation. Laura did." "For my father." "For your father's retirement." "At my restaurant." "Our family's restaurant story belongs in your restaurant." There it was. Not a mistake, not longing, ownership. I told her the reservation was canceled. She said the deposit was non-refundable. I told her fraud was not a cancellation policy. Then her tone changed. "Nina, listen to me before you perform outrage." That phrase took me back to the courthouse steps. She said Calvin believed the lunch was being held at a hotel near Richmond. She had not told him the restaurant was mine. She wanted to bring him in, let him see what I had built, and give us both a chance to behave differently. You mean you want to surprise a man who threatened me with my workplace? He had one bad year. He drove across state lines to confront me at my job. He was losing his daughter. He was trying to keep her. Lorraine sighed. Your father is not well. You said that 2 years ago. He has another procedure coming up. The old pressure arrived on schedule: health, time, regret. I asked what procedure. She hesitated, then said it was a heart catheterization, serious enough to sound frightening. Routine enough that she had hidden it inside a fake corporate booking. I am sorry he is unwell, I said. He is still not coming here. He does not know you are involved. Then tell him the event was canceled. You would humiliate him in front of 30 people. You invited 30 people to a lie. She went silent. I ended the call and locked my office door. For several minutes, I sat with my feet flat on the floor and named what I could see: desk, lamp, receipt printer, green wall, brass handle. It was a grounding exercise from therapy, a way to teach the body that memory was not the same thing as danger. Rosa knocked once and came in. I told her everything. She did not say I knew it. She did not tell me what to do. She read the event packet, then tapped the line that said no media. If they lied about the company, assume they lied about this too. We canceled the booking in our system. Tessa sent formal notice to the email address. We refunded the deposit so Lorraine could not claim we had taken her money. I thought that ended it. It did not. 2 days later, a handwritten envelope arrived at my apartment. Only Eli and a few close friends had that address. Inside was the white place card from the event sample package. Calvin Hayes was written across it in blue ink. On the back, my mother had written, "One meal, that is all I am asking." I called Eli. Did you give her my address? No. I think. He went quiet. Then he swore under his breath. What? Christmas cards. My wife keeps an address list in a shared family account. Mom helped her update it last year. My anger rose, fast and hot. You said she could not get it. I did not know she had access. That is always the answer. I am sorry. I wanted to hang up again. I wanted to put all of my fear into his hands because he had made a mistake. Instead, I looked at the place card. Remove her from the account, I said. I will. Today. Today. And do not tell her I called. I will not. He kept his word. I took the place card to work and placed it beside the canceled booking packet. The white paper looked harmless. That was what my mother understood better than anyone. Harm could arrive in neat handwriting. The following Monday, Lorraine appeared at Linden Table alone. It was 3 in the afternoon. We were closed between services. Chairs were stacked near the bar, and Rosa was testing a new soup in the kitchen. My mother stood outside the locked door, holding a bakery box. She looked older. Her hair was shorter and almost silver. For one disorienting second, I saw the woman who packed my school lunches and rubbed my back when I had the flu. Then she lifted the bakery box and smiled for the security camera. I did not open the door. She called the restaurant. I came alone, she said through the phone. You were told not to come. I brought your grandmother's caramel cake. My grandmother is dead. That is why it matters. I watched her through the glass. She wore low heels and a navy coat. She did not look dangerous. She looked like someone's mother waiting for a daughter to stop being difficult. Rosa came beside me. You do not have to let her in, she said. I know. But knowing and acting are different things. My mother had spent my whole childhood making me responsible for the room. Leaving her outside felt cruel, even after everything. That was my mistake. I unlocked the door. Lorraine stepped over the brass line and kissed the air beside my cheek. She looked around the dining room with wet eyes. You did all this. Rosa and I did. Of course. She said it quickly, the way people say of course when they had not considered another answer. I led her to a table near the front. I did not take her into the private room. She placed the cake between us and folded her hands. I should not have used Laura's name. No. I was desperate. That does not make it better. I thought if you saw him without preparation, your heart might speak before your anger. My fear would speak first. Lorraine's mouth tightened. He is not the same man. Has he apologized? He carries deep regret. That is not an apology. He does not have your language for these things. He had language in those voicemails. She looked toward the kitchen. A pan clattered. My shoulders jumped before I could stop them. My mother noticed. For a moment, something real crossed her face. Shame, maybe, or recognition. Then she reached for my hand. I moved it away. Nina, I know your father was hard. He was abusive. She flinched at the word. He was under pressure. So was everyone around him. He provided for us. He kept my wages. He gave you a profession. I built a profession after I left. Her eyes hardened. No one builds from nothing. That sentence revealed the point of the visit. She did not only want reconciliation, she wanted attribution. The newspaper in Bristol planned to publish Calvin's retirement feature after his medical procedure. Lorraine wanted a photograph of him at Linden Table. She wanted the article to say his daughter had carried his legacy to Virginia. It would mean everything to him, she said. It would be a lie. It would be a generous interpretation. He did not inspire this place. You learned food in his kitchen. I learned fear in his kitchen. Her voice dropped. Must you make every memory ugly? No, I am making this one accurate. She sat back, tears filled her eyes but none fell. She said the luncheon guests were old employees and regulars. Some had already booked hotel rooms. She said Calvin had lost friends in recent years and was frightened by his heart problems. She said one afternoon could give him peace. Then she made the request smaller. I did not have to serve him. I did not have to give a speech. I did not even have to enter the room. Let the lunch happen, she said. Stay upstairs if you need to. I will tell him afterward that the restaurant is yours. I should have said no. Instead, I pictured 30 people driving to Richmond. I pictured old servers who had once slipped me cash when Calvin withheld my pay. I pictured food ordered, shifts scheduled, and my mother telling everyone I had ruined the day. I also pictured my father walking through the door without knowing I was there. That image felt less dangerous than facing him. I will consider a private lunch, I said. No reporter, no camera, no kitchen tour. You do not tell him I invited him. Lorraine nodded too fast. And he leaves if I ask. Yes. You sign a new event agreement under your real name. Yes. You do not contact my home again. Yes. Every answer came easily, because she had no intention of keeping the important promise. Before she left, she pushed the bakery box toward me. I did not open it. At the door, she stepped across the brass line and turned. You will see, she said. Once he is in the room, you will remember he is your father. I locked the door behind her. Rosa waited near the bar. You are letting the lunch happen. Maybe. Do you want it to? No. Then why? I looked at the cake box. Because I want this to stop. Rosa's expression softened. People like your mother do not stop when the plan works. She was right. I knew she was right. I let hope make me stupid anyway. The next week, Lorraine signed the event agreement under her own name. The document stated that no media could attend, no guest could enter the kitchen, and the restaurant could end service if anyone threatened staff or refused to leave. She initialed every condition. I kept the white place card in my desk. For 3 days, I tried to convince myself I had created control. We changed a few tables, assigned only senior staff, and scheduled Rosa beside me for the entire lunch. Then an email arrived from a reporter named June Keller. She wrote for the Bristol Herald, the same paper preparing Calvin's retirement feature. She thanked me for allowing her to document the surprise reunion that would complete the Hayes family story. My mouth went dry. June attached the note Lorraine had sent her. My daughter has agreed to host Calvin at the beautiful restaurant his teaching inspired. She has been private about their relationship, but she is ready to welcome him home in the way she knows best. Please arrive before the guests so we can capture his reaction. Lorraine had included a schedule. Calvin would enter at noon. I would greet him at the brass line. I would guide him through the dining room. Before dessert, I would bring out his old diner apron and thank him for putting a knife in my hand. The apron did not exist. The gratitude did not exist. The schedule even included a quote beside my name. Everything I know began with my father. I had never said those words. June asked whether I preferred a still photograph or a short video when I presented the cake. I called her. Did my mother tell you I wrote that quote? Yes. I did not. The reporter went quiet. I explained only what she needed to know. There had been a protective order. I had not invited Calvin. The private lunch had been obtained first through a fake company, then allowed under written conditions that prohibited media. June apologized. She forwarded every email without being asked. Lorraine had told her I was nervous about emotion, not safety. She had called our estrangement a long misunderstanding caused by my youthful ambition. She had promised the reunion would show how a father's tough standards created a successful daughter. The story was not about healing. It was about washing my father's history in the dining room I had built to escape it. I canceled the lunch again. This time, I sent the notice to Lorraine, Laura, and June. I quoted the media clause and the false statements. I told Lorraine that Calvin was not permitted on the property. Her reply arrived almost at once. You invited him by accepting the event. I wrote back, I canceled the event because you lied. She called 12 times. I did not answer. Then Eli called. Mom says you set her up. How? She says you agreed, waited until people traveled, and pulled out to punish Dad. Did she tell you about the reporter? A pause. No. I forwarded him the emails. He called back 5 minutes later. She told the reporter you were going to thank him. Yes. She invented a speech. Yes. His breathing changed. I am sorry, Nina. Do not apologize for her. I am not. I am sorry I kept thinking there was a version of this where she wanted peace. So had I. The following day, Lorraine left a voicemail from Laura's phone. Her voice was calm again. The guests are coming. Your father is coming. You can either handle this privately or you can make a scene in front of everyone. That choice is yours. I saved the message. Then I made my own choice. We closed Linden Table for lunch. Staff who wanted the hours came in for prep and were paid. Staff who did not want to be present stayed home with pay. Rosa moved the food we had ordered into a donation plan for a women's shelter. Nothing would be wasted. I placed a small sign on the front door. Private event canceled. The restaurant will open for dinner. Below it, I posted the cancellation time and the contact name Lorraine Hayes. No family story, no accusation, just the truth needed by anyone who arrived. I called the police non-emergency line and explained that a person who had once been under a protective order might come to my workplace after written notice not to enter. The dispatcher told me to call if he refused to leave. I did not hire guards. I did not arrange a trap. I arranged a boundary. June asked whether she should stay away. I told her that was her decision. I would not perform my pain for an article. She said she planned to come because Lorraine had used her as part of the pressure. She would not bring a photographer. She would bring printed copies of the emails. At 11:40 that Saturday, I stood inside Linden Table with Rosa beside me. The dining room lights were on, but every table was bare. No plates, no flowers, no place settings. The private room was empty. The only card in the building was the white one in my pocket. At 11:53, a small bus turned onto the street. My knees weakened. Rosa touched my elbow. "Do you want me to lock the door?" I looked at the brass line. "No," I said. "I want them to hear me say it." The bus stopped in front of the restaurant. Lorraine stepped down first. She carried a garment bag and a white bakery box. Behind her came former diner employees, church friends, and people I remembered from childhood. Then Calvin appeared. He moved more slowly than he had nearly 12 years earlier. His hair was white at the temples, and one hand rested on the rail. Age had changed his body. It had not made him safe. He looked up at the Linden Table sign, then he saw me through the glass. Lorraine hurried inside before he could speak. Her heel crossed the brass line. "Smile," she whispered. "He thinks this was your idea." Guests filled the sidewalk behind her. June stood near the back with a folder under her arm. Calvin reached the doorway. "Nina." My mother touched his arm. "Surprise." He looked around the empty dining room. "This is yours." "Yes." Pride spread across his face. "I knew you would come back to food." The old room tried to form around us. His version, her smile, my job to keep everyone comfortable. I stopped behind the brass line. "The event is canceled," I said. Lorraine kept smiling. "Sweetheart, everyone is here." "I canceled 2 days ago." A murmur moved through the group. Calvin looked at her. "What is she talking about?" There was confusion with the paperwork. "There was no confusion," I said. "She booked under a fake company name after I said you were not invited. Then she signed an agreement banning media and invited a reporter." My father's eyes found June. Lorraine turned on her. "You said you would be discreet." "You told me Nina planned this reunion," June said. "She did. She is emotional now." I took the white place card from my pocket. "This arrived at my home after the first booking was canceled," I said. "Lorraine wrote your name on it. Then she sent a reporter a schedule for words I never agreed to say." Calvin stared at the card. For 1 second, I thought he might understand. Then his jaw tightened. "You waited until today to embarrass your mother." "I canceled twice. People drove 5 hours. I did not invite them. This is your family. This is my workplace." He stepped across the brass line. My back tightened, my hands went numb. Rosa moved beside me. "Calvin, step outside," I said. His eyebrows rose. "You are ordering me out because your mother wanted us to eat together. You were told not to come." "I was told my daughter invited me." "Then she lied to you too." Lorraine's face sharpened. "I created an opportunity. You created an audience." She unzipped the garment bag. Inside was Calvin's old diner apron. The name Cal was stitched in red above the pocket. She held it out. "This is what you were going to present before dessert." I was never going to present it. "Just take it." "No." Her arm remained extended. "Nina, people came to celebrate the man who gave you your start." There it was, the debt of the daughter, the right of the father, the room waiting for me to agree. Calvin nodded toward the kitchen. You learned behind my line. I learned behind your line that fear can wear an apron. My mother went pale. Calvin stepped closer. You think you built this without me? I built it because I knew what I would never allow here. You always were dramatic. You drove to my job after I told you not to contact me. I came to bring you home. You threatened to wait outside my apartment. I was angry. You told my employer I stole money. I was trying to make them understand who they hired. That is not an apology. His voice rose. I am your father. I should not have to apologize for trying to keep my own daughter from throwing her life away. The dining room went quiet. Nearly 12 years had passed, and he still believed the harm was authority used too strongly. My mother touched his sleeve. Cal, not here. He shook her off. No, she wants truth. I fed her, I trained her. I gave her every skill that made this place possible. I looked at the empty tables. You did teach me things, I said. His expression shifted, certain he had won. You taught me how one person can make a whole kitchen afraid. You taught me what happens when a mother calls fear loyalty. You taught me exactly what I would never build. Lorraine whispered, stop. You had nearly 12 years to say that to him. I kept our family together. You kept him comfortable. June opened her folder. Mrs. Hayes, did you write the quote you sent me? Lorraine did not answer. June read it aloud. Everything I know began with my father. Calvin looked at my mother. Lorraine. It was a summary. Of what? The spirit of the day. The day she canceled. My mother's control cracked. I was trying to give you something good before your procedure. You told me Nina called you. She would have eventually. That answer changed the room. My father had arrived expecting a daughter who reached out. The guests expected a reunion. The reporter expected consent. Lorraine had manufactured all of us. Eli stepped off the bus last. I had not seen him behind the others. He held his little girl's pink backpack. Mom, he said, you told me Nina changed her mind. You brought your daughter, I asked. He looked ashamed. Mom said it was safe. Safe. My mother had used the thing she never protected to guarantee her plan. I faced the people outside. You were told I invited Calvin and planned this lunch. I did not. The reservation was made under a false name and canceled. The restaurant will not serve this event. An older woman named Patty stepped forward. She had worked mornings at Cal's Grill when I was a teenager. I thought you asked for us, she said. I did not. Her eyes lowered. I am sorry, honey. The apology came from the wrong person, but it loosened something in my chest. Lorraine moved between us. Do not turn this into a public trial. You brought the public. We brought people who love you. People who love me were given a lie. Calvin shoved the bakery box toward me. It struck the host stand, and caramel frosting smeared across the cardboard. For an instant, I was 24 again, watching him tear my offer letter. Then I saw the brass line beneath his shoes. I was not trapped against a car. This was my door. I took the written notice from the host's stand. Calvin Hayes, you are not permitted inside Linden Table. Leave now. He stared at the paper. You planned this. I prepared for you to ignore no. Lorraine reached for the notice. I am his wife. And I am the owner of this property. Calvin laughed. You think a lease makes you powerful. No, a decision does. I placed the notice on the damaged cake box. You didn't plan a reunion, I told my mother. You rented the one place I built where he could not reach me. Her mouth opened. And you told everyone my silence meant yes. It does not, it never did. Calvin pointed toward the kitchen. I want to see what my daughter built. You will not. I came all this way. You need to leave. Make me. The words were quiet. I took out my phone and called the number the dispatcher had given me. I stated my name, the restaurant address, and that a person with written notice was refusing to leave. Calvin watched me. You would call the police on your father again? Yes. No speech, no explanation. Yes. The answer changed him. He looked around and understood that nobody would pull the phone from my hand. Nobody would make the room his. Patty walked toward the bus. Other guests followed. June closed her folder. I will not publish the reunion story, she said. There was no reunion. Lorraine turned toward her. You cannot write about this. I did not say I would. The retirement feature could still exist, but it would not use my restaurant or my words. My mother had lost the clean ending she wanted. Eli stepped inside long enough to collect the pink backpack. He looked at Calvin. Dad, leave. You stay out of this. I brought my child because Mom lied to me. I am in it. Lorraine began to cry, her shoulders folded. I only wanted one good day, she said. I believed her. That was the saddest part. She wanted a good day more than she wanted the truth required to make one possible. You cannot build a good day out of someone else's fear, I said. A patrol car arrived quietly at the curb. An officer spoke to me, then to Calvin. I showed the cancellation email and the written notice. The officer did not decide our family history. He did not need to. He told Calvin that the owner had withdrawn permission for him to be there. Staying would become trespassing. My father looked at me across the brass line. For years, I imagined that final look would contain regret. It contained disbelief. He could not understand that my no had become enforceable. Lorraine took his arm. Before she boarded the bus, she turned back. You have ended this family. I shook my head. No, I ended your event. Then I closed the door. We opened for dinner that evening. I expected the dining room to feel damaged. Instead, the first guests crossed the brass line, shook rain from their coats, and asked for a table by the window. Rosa donated the untouched lunch food. The shelter sent back a note that said, "Nothing wasted." June's article ran the following week. It was a short piece about Calvin's retirement. My name appeared once, stating that I owned a restaurant in Richmond and had declined to participate. No quote, no photograph, no borrowed gratitude. Eli stopped sharing information with our parents. We did not become close overnight, but we became honest, which was better. Lorraine mailed one final letter. She wrote that I had chosen strangers over blood. She said she hoped success was worth the loneliness. I did not answer. I was not lonely. I had Rosa, a staff that knew they could make mistakes without fear, and a dining room full of people who came because they felt welcome. Family was not everyone who claimed a chair. It was the people who respected the door. The white place card stayed in my office for 1 month. Then I carried it to the host's stand. On the back, beneath my mother's words, I wrote one sentence. A reservation is not consent. I placed it in the drawer with canceled event records. Not hidden, not displayed, finished. Sometimes I still think about the moment Calvin crossed the brass line. My body remembers before I do. Then I remember what happened next. I did not soothe him. I did not serve him. I did not let my mother turn my restaurant into proof that the past had been forgiven. I said no in the room where no had rules behind it. That was not revenge. It was ownership. If someone has ever called your boundary cruelty because it interrupted the story they wanted to tell, share what helped you hold it. And subscribe for more stories about choosing truth without becoming cruel. The brass line is still in our doorway. Every night, people cross it carrying birthdays, first dates, grief, hunger, and ordinary exhaustion. We welcome them. But welcome has never meant surrender. I built a restaurant where everyone is treated with dignity. That includes the woman who owns it.